want to answer this one? Yeah, I'm happy to, but it'd be nice to hear from the founders, right?
Yeah, for sure. Happy to chime in and thanks for the question. Yeah, happy to kick it off. So yeah, mission statement is, to make developers' lives easier, right? Especially in Web3, there's so much complex things that you have to build to even just get off the ground running, right? You have to understand how to build smart contracts, how to make sure you don't have gaps there. To start to build these dApps, you have to make sure that they're secure. You have to make sure that the users can log in, have a great experience, make sure it's personalized, and then that's not even getting to like feature parity with like a Web2 experience. So our goal is the things that are is basically uniform across all apps. So that's that login experience, that's that access control layer. Can we just provide that to you with a couple lines of code so you can focus on that core differentiator and really just focus on your app? So, the TLDR of our mission statement is basically just making Web3 developers' lives easier by providing authentication authorization with a couple lines of code.
I love that. So then these developers can kind of focus on their creative direction and build what they want to build and not have to really stress on the security part, which is extremely important.
Exactly. So, we've chatted with a handful of folks and it's like, to get like a rudimentary, login is maybe 2-3 weeks if you know what you're doing. But then to start to be like, okay, let's have non-custodial wallets. Let's also have email logins because we want to, start to onboard the masses, all these things. Then you start to talk about multiple months. And then, obviously you have to maintain it. New bugs come out and how do you handle that? And so with us, it takes you maybe 15 minutes, maybe an hour to get started with /auth. And then we handle all that continuous maintenance. And to your point, yeah, have them focus on their value prop and, their special sauce.
I love that, dude. That was like straight to the point, and it was like dumbed down enough for someone like me to understand. I appreciate you. These security features are like this layer that you guys help implement? Like this all works with your basic MetaMask and Wallet Connect and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. So right now, you could use MetaMask, Wallet Connect, Coinbase Wallet, also supporting like the Brave wallets. And so all of that from the Web3 side, we also allow for people to log in with like Google and email. And then the really unique thing that we do is basically we make that one distributed identity. So if you sign in with MetaMask and then you also want to connect your email to that same account, you can then continue to log in with your email and still pass the same token gates, for instance, to continue to get access. So you don't always have to be using your wallet. And so that's just a nice way. So if you don't want to carry your hot wallet on your phone, once you've joined that distributed identity, then you can use your email on your phone to have that same security and access.
I gotta. That kind of raises another question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Recently, Twitter had like a bunch of information was compromised, right? A lot of emails, phone numbers, usernames, names. If I were to connect my email to say like said wallet, like you were talking about, and my email was compromised, does that also compromise any of my wallets, or is there like a two-factor authentication setup that would kind of keep those things safe if I did? Because I feel like emails do often get compromised and passwords more so than wallets. So that's
right. No, that's a great question, and all right, so I'll give you the short answer. No, it won't compromise your wallet, right? Because we still won't have your private key, and so all of those write access to like actually do anything with your assets, we won't have access to, right? It's mainly to check that you still hold that NFT to then get access. So that's kind of like that simple use that we do. From a security standpoint, Ned and I, we built identity systems, we built payment systems at Twitch. And so we've done this at scale following, industry best practices. We're also in the process of getting certified by SOC 2 to continue to, have that trust from our users, right? Because I think when you're building such a core piece of infrastructure, you want to have that trust from the users. And so that's really something we focus on and something we pride ourselves in.
No, I love that, man. We talk a lot about, in some of our other spaces, we talk a lot about how onboarding Web 2 to Web 3 is not going to be kind of like a shove it down your throat type thing. It's going to be a bridge with, things like you're talking about. Is like people do like to log in with their email. They don't want to have to fully learn wallet connectivity and go full Web3 type authentication. So the fact that you guys are have built a tool that allows you to still kind of log into things like a Web2 process. You know, start kind of culture that we have over here. So I appreciate the answers.
Of course, no, and I mean, I totally agree with you. I think there's going to be such like a spectrum of how people want to use Web3. Like, I think there's going to be some people that like know and they're signing with their MetaMask, and I think on the other side there's going to be people that like have no idea this website is using blockchain technology. And it's similar to like, I don't know, you buy an airline ticket, you have no idea like where that ticket's being stored, but you're just happy that that ticket is a record, right? So it'll be interesting to see over these next 5 years like where that spectrum starts to reside for like the masses.
Yeah, and it may be that for the next 5 years or even a little bit more that there is that double option, right? Because
Mhm.
you know we have generations that are coming up, and maybe we'll start to learn like full Web3 authentication and logging into sites, but they're like for a long time people will want that second option to log in like traditionally, like they are used to. So no, I think this
Totally.
is a great tool. I'm stoked to be here and learn some more, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate all the questions.
Any other questions, about Slashots in particular, or just kind of, again, this is a general space about building Web3. So, any questions at all, please feel free to hop up and ask. And again, if you don't feel comfortable asking in a public forum like this, feel free to drop it in the comments below the thread, and we'll answer those questions for sure. Yeah, Loco's got a question. Pass it over to Loco real quick. Let's go.
Hello. So basically, I was wondering, like, this project is like built on what mainnet, and if not, it's like a decentralized or something like this. Because I'm new into the Web3, like, uh, is this tool need to be like built on top on a blockchain or yeah? I have like so much concerns about that.
I can maybe speak to that. It's a great question. I think that the way we think about Web3 development is that there's sort of fully decentralized, fully on chain dApps, right? You can think about Uniswap as a good example there, where everything they do is on chain. There's fully Web2 applications where nothing is on chain. We could probably come up with a million ideas there. But the vast majority of things are what we kind of refer to as Web 2.5, where you have some things on chain and some things off chain effectively. So, as an example, maybe you build a game that uses NFTs in the game. Your game is majorly off chain, but you do have some on chain components like your NFTs. And we actually power these types of apps. So, if you're building basically anything where you want both Web 2 and Web 3 components, you can use /auth. In fact, I suggest you do because it'll really speed you up. But also, if you're going pure Web 2, you can also use /auth because it opens the door to move into Web 3 in the future, right? We make that transition really easy with non-custodial wallets, with super easy drop-in components. If you're purely Web 3, there isn't actually a strong need to use anything, right? Because if you're Uniswap, you don't need a login mechanism. Everything is 100% on chain. Nobody can do anything without their wallet effectively. So if you're building a fully decentralized app, again, like you probably don't need something like /auth or any sort of auth solution. And I could go into why, but that's sort of the high level answer there.
Yeah, but like the /auth project is built on what chain, like though?
Oh, excuse me. I misunderstood your question. Yeah, so we support Ethereum-based chains. So you can think about Ethereum and all the test nets. You can think about Polygon and sort of basically anything else that's sort of ETH native. I think there's like 240 chains that are there. We support all of those chains currently.
Yeah, but like when I read the thing pinned up top, like you guys like ensure the security, right? Like did you heard about Luxo and the project Luxo? Like, do you have like some concerns? I mean, like some knowledge about it and about the security that offers.
Yeah, Landon's definitely our Luxo expert, and we've definitely talked about it a bit. But he can speak to Luxo a lot more coherently than I can.
Yeah, of course, Loco. Of course, I've mentioned Luxo to this group of people. Come on now. um, Absolutely. I've been trying to ping pill for a while, obviously. But Luxo is a EVM compatible chain, right? They're EVM based, so Slashauth could definitely support Luxo, and you're still going to need to be able to do those same login things, right, on their DApps. And the cool thing about Luxo is that you can have some cross-chain compatibility. Like you'll be able to eventually link your MetaMask to your universal profile and things like that. So there's some interesting uh, kind of applications there. Um, as far as maybe logging in with one, connecting your MetaMask, or logging in with both, or only approving assets from one account and not the other. There's a lot of different possibilities there, and I would. I'm not going to speak for the entire group here, but I would say Luxo is definitely on the radar for sure. But also, Ned, I had a quick question because I agree that some projects like Uniswap doesn't need to have an auth solution, but at the same time, you know, there's like protocols like Impersonator where someone can impersonate a wallet, and if it's only transfer any funds or anything like that, but they can make it seem like they've got access to your wallet, and that's something that with just a simple auth solution, simple login solution, that's completely taken off the table. And I think it would take away from a lot of those scams, right? Like I know, I forget what his name was, but it's someone with a lot of apes. He got scammed, or I think he did get scammed for quite a bit of money. Someone used Impersonator to log into a D app, and they're like, if you don't transfer me this much, blah blah blah, I'm going to move everything out of your wallet. And in a panic, I think he did. And so, but if there was the opportunity, or if they had the ability to sign the nonce as soon as they get onto a D app in order to access the information, then all that would have been avoided. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think that that's actually a really good example of where auth could come into play. But I would go a step further, and I'm going to date myself a little bit here. But back in the 90s, people would use Photoshop to Photoshop somebody's website to make it look like they had access to it, and there was no way they could have had access. But they're like, look at all the things I can do, because they used Photoshop or something at the time that was very bleeding edge to make it look like they had access. There's no way to stop bad actors from kind of doing that type of attack. Using like signing a nonce is interesting, but if people are educated on Web3, they would know, hey, there's no way this person does have access to my wallet, because they would have already transferred everything out, right? Like there's nothing this person gains by sending that note if they actually had access to the private key, but that's just an education argument. So what you're saying, 100% correct, but I'm not sure if it's necessarily the right tool to use. I think education may be a better tool to use there.
Definitely, that makes sense. But I think it also speaks volumes to the user experience, right? Like, not everyone is going to be super educated. We can't expect everyone to be the most educated in this space if we want everyone to be using it, right? It's just unrealistic. And like even yesterday when Twitter was down for a little bit, I saw people that they use Twitter every day, and then I saw tons of tweets like, oh my god, I thought I got hacked and blah blah blah. And like that split second where you just go into panic mode and you don't know what's going on is when you're the most susceptible to click on a link that you think might help you and then screws you over and all that. So I feel like those moments where yes, it could be solved with education, and I think that's the best route is hopefully everyone is as educated as possible. I We need it to be easier, right? To cover those 1% cases where it's not happening all the time, but we need to make sure it almost never happens, right?
Yeah, 1,000,000%. I think what you're saying is without a doubt, like we're dealing with sort of people at large, and most people are good, but there are those subset of people who are bad, and we do have to protect against them. And great security really does help there. I 100% agree with you.
And I think to your point, just making things easier is how you start to onboard the masses. Like, I'd love to see maybe by show of hands, like I would say all of us here are probably in the top 10%, if not top 5% of like Web3 users, being that we're in a Web3 space right now. Like when you guys transfer money, do you guys still like a large sum of money? Do you guys still send like the test transfer first? Or are you now so confident that you send like all of it? Like for me, I know I don't know if there'll ever be a day where I'm not sending like 1% of the funds first to then confirm and then sending the rest. And I mean that explaining that to someone else that you're trying to onboard, like that's where things just need to get easier, things need to get more intuitive, things need to become less risky, right? If you accidentally send a bunch of money to someone, like there's really no recourse. So yeah, I definitely think, to your point, just making things easier, making things more intuitive, and making things safer is going to be huge for onboarding people.
Yeah, the amount of money I've spent in gas fees sending that one USDC transaction to be like, is this the right place?
So scary.
I feel like every time I connect my wallet and make a transaction, like even with Artifact, who like they work tirelessly to make it like the easiest experience and the most secure experience, especially after some hiccups in the past. Like anytime I connect my wallet that has my clone in it, I feel like it takes like years off my life. I'm so stressed out.
Yeah, anytime we have to do like a Gnosis multisig signature and it's like here's the data you're sending and it's not just like broken out to like okay you are sending like this much money, it's just it's heart skips a couple beats.
100%. We got Dre Millie up here. What's going on, Dre? How you doing?
Craig, I lacking my.
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. What brought you to the space today? Are you looking to build? Are you like just ideating, or you just kind of wanted to participate in the conversation? What's going
I
on?
would say D, all of the above. Like I'm always looking to build. I'm always looking to support. I'm always looking to learn more about security. I can definitely agree with the sentiment about losing years of my life from signing these contracts, man. Like I'm learning information about what you're saying with the application that where you can sign certain things or you can utilize your wallet without signing certain things. So I'm down for all of these lessons, man. I think it's something that should be pushed out and widespread throughout the community because too many people out here are getting finessed. Um, we almost got finessed by a doodle last week, and it was life changing. So anything that I can find out that's going to educate me more to keep things in my wallet where they belong, I'm all for it.
Hell yeah, man! Absolutely, absolutely. I'm gonna pink pill you a little bit. Luxo can help with that a little bit in the sense that you can set up like vaults and you can use the key manager a little bit to make sure that people that you trust can sign off on your transactions, right? So like there'll be a time when we're using Luxo mainnet where if you wanted to transfer your clone to another part of a vault in your universal profile or something like that, it would need 2 or 3 people, given that you give them the permission to, for you to be able to transfer that out. Oh wow, my dogs just started going crazy. On that note, Cass, you're in the space. What's going on, Cass? I haven't talked to you in forever. How's it going, man?
Hey, it's going good. Glad to see you building still, always doing your thing. I had to jump up because this conversation was very on point for me yesterday. I had probably the most stressful day purely because I went to go claim an egg from a wallet that I had a clone in that I haven't like touched in a while, and for some reason just got locked out of it. Tried using my seed phrase 6 hours, wasn't working. And so like I'm sitting here like rationalizing like how am I supposed to accept that this just clone's just gone? Like I'm just not gonna be able to get back to it. But finally after 6 hours I figured it out. I basically had one word in my seed phrase written down wrong. And so y'all please use neat handwriting. Holy shit. Please don't go through that stress. Because I basically had to go to a GitHub page and go through a bunch of words to figure out if mine was on there. And yeah, it was a lot.
Hey, Cass, you didn't use the 3 cards you got with your ledger, man?
Oh, I did, but my handwriting's trash. I would show y'all my seed trace, but then kind of defeats the whole purpose. But yeah, my handwriting's real bad, and I put it this way. The word I got wrong, it was gift, and I accidentally put grift or something. I don't fucking know. So yeah, now y'all have one of the 24 words needed to steal my shit. But yeah, that was my learning lesson for the day.
Dude,
Yeah.
kudos to you though to go and find the words that are even available. I mean, that's a brilliant fix. That's that's brilliant.
It was stress and a lot of YouTube videos. And Ledger, I mean, shout out to Ledger. They put it in their video, and they said that was like something that somebody had gone through. And I was like, I was just praying because for those of you that know, it's like those 24 words, you don't get them, and that's that. So it's yeah. Hopefully, Luxo will save me one day with that one, Yellow Turtle. I know you about to you about to throw something for me.
Absolutely, dude. But I was actually going to say, like, when I set up my ledger, I wrote down all the 24 words and stuff, and they make you check one more time. They're like, please make sure you wrote down the correct words. And I almost was like, nah, I definitely wrote them down correctly. Like, how wouldn't I have written them down correctly? And I was like, let me just make sure. And I went through them all, and there was one word where I mixed up two letters, and I was like, holy shit! Like, I would have been screwed, absolutely screwed. So yeah, I mean, like, it speaks volumes to the fact that, like, that's got to change, right? Like, we can't, if your grandmother or somebody who's a little bit less technologically advanced or inclined, like, we can't allow them to that be for that to be the be all end all of accessing all your funds, especially in something like a ledger where you're probably holding your most valuable assets. So yeah, no, there needs to be better ways to go about that. I mean, someone in the Luxo space, unfortunately, is just a terrible situation, but his house burned down, which is very. Luckily, the Luxo community kind of came together, and they started a little fund for him, and he got some of his licks back, but not nearly the amount that he had. And I've seen some cold wallets where you can etch your seed phrase into metal, so that way it's fireproof. But, like, come on, is that really the solution here? Like, it's a solution, but it can't be the final solution for us to onboard everyone into this space.
Yeah, I definitely agree. That was my feeling. I was gonna just say though, for anybody who wants to not deal with that stress and just double check, there's actually an app that I found that you can download from like Ledger Live. And it's just a recovery checker, and basically you can type your seed phrase in and just make sure that you actually have it written down. And if you don't have it written down, just like really consider like, okay, maybe I should move it to a new wallet because if I get locked out, yeah, that's right.
Have your seed phrase written down in multiple locations. Don't just have one piece of paper with your seed phrase in a house, because if that house burns down and it's on a piece of paper, then your seed phrase is gone. Whereas if you could, scatter it somewhere else, then you'll be able to at least have like a fallback, right?
Let me jump in and ask a question because we talk about ledger and losing things. I have a couple of space pods and loop pods that's on my ledger that I can't get to. Like they show up in my wallet in OpenSea with my clone and everything else that's in this cold storage. But when I connect my ledger to my when I connect it to actually get them and retrieve them, they don't show up on my ledger. And this probably ain't something that you guys can help me out
Are
with, or
you
maybe
doing it
somebody
through
can
Ledger
point me in
Live,
the.
Dre?
You said
Are
what?
you doing it through Ledger Live, or are you trying to do that like?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
all of the above. Ledger Live, connecting it to my MacBook, all of the above. They just don't show up. Neither my space pods or my loop pods, but
I had that
my clone
happen.
does.
Yeah, I had that happen to me with some Animus eggs and some space pods too. And I think it's just because Ledger Live, um, it sort of has a rough time populating the NFTs when I'm like scrolling through it. And I had that
Mhm.
happen to me. I like did some updates or whatever, installed them, and then I did that a few times, and eventually, like it started showing some of the assets that I thought were like I'm seeing them on OpenSea, but I just couldn't see them in their Ledger Live app.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of happened to me too. Actually, recently I was transferring some stuff, and it was just a matter of like being, it was annoying, but it was just like turning it off and on and updating, reinstalling it, and then just eventually it showed up and populated, and but it did take a long time to like scroll down, find the assets, and like it would kind of freeze up a little bit. So like there was issues with the Ledger Live. Like I definitely wouldn't be doing that through like OpenSea or Blur or any of that other stuff. But
Okay.
yeah, I would stick to Ledger Live doing that because it happened to me, and I was able to mess with it enough to the point where I just needed to update it a bunch of times and reinstall it, and then it found the space pods and the eggs, and I was able to do the transfers. So it's
Okay.
probably just
Yeah.
super
Because
annoying.
that's
You could
it's super
also
annoying.
you could also use on Ledger Live, go to Discover and use Rainbow as like an external application because it's still connected to your ledger, right?
Right.
And it has a lot better infrastructure. Yeah, they use simple hash. So I know that Zerion, they'll actually have like comprehensive NFT metadata and media. All of it will show up, and if they don't, then let me know because that means we're not doing our job. But in terms of Ledger Live, they don't have like a ton of experience gathering all of the NFT data, both like collection data on and off chain. So probably best to use one of their like external applications that's within their app.
Well, I tried to use Rainbow because I thought of that. I was like, maybe it just won't show up through this, but it'll show up to something else. And it didn't show up on Rainbow either. But my Animus egg and the clone that I have in this same wallet showed up, and the transaction even showed up. But the six looties and spaceys I had in here just like disappeared, and that's the reason why I haven't even burned mine because I can't get them.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
broad. I'll have to check on that.
Yeah, it sounds like something you might want to. I don't know if it's just in your hidden folder, but they should probably be easier to find. One thing I'm always doing though is I just go through Etherscan, and if it's there on Etherscan and the right wallet address, I'm usually like, all right, fuck it, I don't really care. Only because I know with like Ledger Live, I was doing it yesterday, just trying to dig through all the BS junk NFTs that get sent to you. Because anybody that starts like collecting something that's considered a blue chip, you immediately get your wallet flooded with just like bogus trash NFTs. And yeah, Ledger Live does not sort through that. OpenSea kind of does, but yeah, it's not as hard to read through on Etherscan because you can just flick through it a little bit faster, but you'll also see how much stuff you get sent. Because I remember looking one day, I was like, "Damn, I got a lot of coins for someone who's never who's never really dove deep into altcoins." But all right, like that's cool. Yeah,
Hate to be that guy again, Cass, but Luxo solves that problem because you could write a smart contract to actually deter the assets coming into your wallet in the first place. So they wouldn't even be able to touch your wallet. You can either reject them or you can actually write a smart contract to list them on OpenSea and actually sell them before they even touch your wallet, which is really cool. Would definitely add to the security of everything because I know for newbies in the space or just like thinking back to like the bull run of NFTs, like you just got a bunch of random ones and it was intriguing to click on them and be like, what is this? But God, no, don't do it. Don't do it. It's just so dangerous to have them in your wallet.
slogan that we hear so much, right? Like Alt say it all the time, right? And I'll be talking to Compound, I'm like, man, I got a headache. And he'd be like, Luxo solves that, or anything that happened. So how do we actually get Luxo to solve these things for us? Because we hear about it all the time.
Man, that is a great question that I wish I had the answer to, in the sense that mainnet hasn't launched yet, but we're getting closer and closer, and you can definitely feel it from the community, and you can definitely feel it from the team. So they have one more article to release about their mainnet launch before I think that they actually do. But I think we're going to be turning some heads once it actually does happen.
I forget who asked if we had ever heard of Luxo. Yeah, it's like obviously Landon is like your guys' biggest advocate. So yeah, we've definitely heard of Luxo, and you can obviously hear his passion for it. So we're definitely familiar. It's definitely something we're keeping an eye on as well for integrations.
No, so I just kind of want to. I don't know if this is kind of open forum, but you guys were talking about you worked at Twitch prior, and is it cool if I ask like a question about kind of in that kind of direction?
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, is there anybody that has built a platform or is working on a platform where blockchain-based payments are used as tips for streaming, like Twitch? I don't think anything is based like blockchain, but is there anybody working on that, or do you ever see Twitch, or was there ever any internal conversations where they were going to implement any kind of like cryptocurrency payments for their tipping system?
I can answer a couple pieces of that question. We left in 2020, so unsure of, in the massive bull run of like 2021, if they started to consider, adding in crypto payments. But there was also always, off-platform tipping. So there might also be third-party tipping that was more blockchain-based. But internally, by the time we left, I didn't see much push for that yet. We were also a part of like a couple incubators / auth was, and we were part of Alliance, who was fantastic. And the cohort before us, actually, someone was trying to build a Web3 based Twitch live stream platform. I didn't follow up to see how they're doing. I think it is kind of challenging because as you all know, like latency is a big thing when you start to get more decentralized, and obviously you don't want latency when you're live streaming. So I think that will have to be kind of that Web 2.5 approach that Ned was talking about, where you have like, a lot of the live streaming in the Web 2 world, but then maybe the tipping and the digital assets and all those things and like, the user data all on chain. But it'll be interesting to keep monitoring as, different chains come out that have lower latency, that are cheaper to execute on. But I do think it'll be kind of like a Web 2.5. Yeah, that's kind of what I've seen thus far.
No, yeah, I agree. I've actually heard of streamers that have kind of set up their own like loyalty tokens or set up kind of their own thing for their viewers. But I think that it could be a big step, for Web3, with talks like Twitter coming with this kind of Twitter coin or whatever the talks are, for tipping mechanisms and platforms like Twitch implementing something like that, right? Because then you're kind of like soft onboarding people to crypto. Like they want to support their favorite streamers, right? And they don't even realize they're using blockchain, or that maybe there's that custodial wallet that they're tipping with.
Right.
I see that coming in the future. I know there's a project, Valhalla, I think, is building out a streaming platform like Web3 integrated, or maybe Web 2.5, like you're saying. So I'm excited to see where that goes. But yeah, dude, I just kind of wanted to raise that topic because I think that there is a huge market. Like there's 3 billion gamers out there, and I think that is something that we could see in the next 5 years, is like cryptocurrencies implemented into like Twitter and Twitch, and kind of soft onboarding people to this space.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, because if you look at a lot of the similarities between like the online communities, I mean, people are just so passionate about streamers, right? So I worked on the subscriptions team for a while, and then I worked on payments as well. Ned was on the payments. I mean, we worked in the same organization, and people would get like, as they're right, upset if their like subscriber count was wrong, or their subscriber length was wrong, because they wanted that digital asset, that badge, to show off. And then being able to like tie that on chain, and then being able to then take that to other platforms and be like, yes, I have subscribed and supported this person for 3 years, like I think is super compelling and super exciting. And so you see kind of those analogs between both online communities. And so I'd be surprised if they don't start to move more in that direction. So yeah, I think you bring a great point up.
Hey, Compound, just I don't know if you ever heard of Theta.tv, but I know it was a decentralized video streaming um, website, and I think it's still running. It's I don't know. I remember seeing it a couple years ago, but it's probably worth looking into. Theta.tv.
No, I haven't heard of it, but yeah, I'll look into it, man. I think it's cool. I think it's a cool concept, and I would love to see a lot of the same. I'm excited to see where Twitter goes with it. There's been just the hints and talks about like a Twitter kind of coin or Twitter badge system. Really, I remember the badge system talk, but just to speak on Twitch, like I never growing up, I never understood why people would watch someone play video games and then want to like tip them, right? So then I got on Twitch. I said I'm the type that just doesn't like shun anything. I'm gonna go learn, right, with any kind of new concept. So I jumped on Twitch and I started watching, like, I think it was DayZ, like DayZ players at the time was the hot game, and I found myself like uploading some money, dude. I was like, this guy's good. Like, if this is how he's making his living and he's doing this for us to watch, I ended up tipping, dude. I ended up subscribing, and I don't know why, dude, but there is something cool about like supporting somebody who's making like dope content on Twitch, and I completely understood why. But I think it was just took me having to go figure it out and go check it out. So any kind of new thing that comes around cryptocurrency based that does have like an implementation like that, I'm gonna check it out. I'm gonna use it.
I mean, I was 100% the same way. I was like, I grew up playing video games, and as you're taking turns with your buddy, like you don't want to watch him play. So I was like, why would I want to watch anyone else play? But then like these guys are at just such a insane level. You're like, holy shit, Fortnite blows up, and like, how do you even like build like that? Like, I can't even move my hands like that, let alone like do intelligent controls. And just seeing that like next level, I mean, it's kind of the analog like watching professional athletes. You're like, yeah, I don't want to watch someone play pickup because they suck, but like watching like LeBron James dunk and like have this insane alley oop or like Steph Curry shoot from half court and make it, you're like, okay, they're just playing a different game, right? And so I hear you. I was definitely slow to the streamer life and then or to like enjoying watching streamers, but yeah, once you kind of give it a fair shake, it makes sense. So that's awesome that you saw it.
Did you come around to that realization while working at Twitch or before?
This is recorded, so I'm gonna say before.
That's awesome. Oh, go ahead.
Like, I'm just gonna keep trying to see what he gets. Did you have a favorite streamer that while you were working at Twitch that you like secretly supported? Like, you just liked how he played. He was really good, and you supported him, just subscribed or anything.
That's a great question, and I wish I could give you some like super like just more interesting answer than just like the main ones. I mean, when I first started there, this was like when Ninja had like, I don't know, 200,000 subscribers. And like he left and did like a Samsung event and lost like 40,000 subscribers, which was higher than anyone had ever even gotten like before that. I mean, it was insane because he took a weekend off and he just lost a bunch of subs. I don't know. I mean, Ninja was interesting at the time. I thought Nick Merckx was like just a pretty funny guy as well. Also like would bring up like sports and stuff like that. But I started to get more into like, it was more about the game than the streamer, but I did like Nick Merckx for a while. I'm sure Ned has better answers because he was there for a little bit longer than me.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's funny how many people ask me when I worked at Twitch, like, why do people watch this, or even better, why do people pay for this? And it's like, we all kind of, if you've been there, you get it, is sort of the point, right? I think you brought up a really good point where you're like, yeah, you were tipping this guy because he was making art, making content. You know what I mean? One of the things that we did at Twitch was, if something became big in the community, like as an example, subscriptions weren't even really a thing for many years in the early Twitch days. And they actually made it a thing on platform because people were finding a way to pay these streamers. And so the way Twitch works is when something is working at scale, when people are like finding workarounds to do it at scale, then they build it into the platform. So if people start doing crypto-based payments as like tips or as subscriptions or even as like badges or NFTs that you get for watching the stream, I do think it will be implemented into the platform. Now the downside is whenever you're owned by a large conglomerate like Amazon, it really handcuffs you to what you can do because you get into a bunch of legal concerns, and so that's probably why they're so slow to move on it. Just my hypothesis.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your answers. I thought I saw Amazon announce something like entering the NFT space in some way. I got to dive into it a little bit more, but I didn't know Twitch was owned by Amazon, so that's my ignorance. But I could see, yeah, I kind of see where this is all going in the next couple of years. So it's pretty exciting.
Let me piggyback off of that too. I'm supposed to call you Amazon Compound.
That's fine.
No,
You can call me Amazon.
let me piggyback off of that too, Amazon. It is a situation where they Amazon said they were going to do something with NFT, so that might have the integration for Twitch. But I know my brother's a Theta Maxi, man. He was talking about getting Theta nodes, and you need to get Theta nodes and put money into this, utilizing T Fuel and all of that stuff. And I never really was about streamers or subscribing to streamers either. Amazon, I thought it was it was just awkward for me because I came from a generation where if I wanted to play the game, I played the game. I didn't really want to watch the homie play the game, but it is a whole culture behind it. And my wife is really interested in becoming a streamer as well. So we've been doing the research into looking into it to set up everything that needs to be. Is this, or am I reaching with this too?
Answer is always yes. Can I give you an example at the moment? I'd have to think on it. I know Alts is down there probably plotting. If he'd get up here and speak, that'd be awesome. But yeah, let me think on that. I mean, and Web3 gaming is definitely going to be huge. And as far as like, having control over your assets and, maybe putting certain assets in different vaults to kind of build up your digital identity in that area. Would be very interesting. Like maybe I have a vault in my universal profile that I only, collect badges from streams or something like that. Or maybe I am a streamer and I have a vault where, I'm giving out these like POAP type deals or NFTs for, people that join in, connect their universal profile. And maybe that's the use case, but I think that's probably thinking a little small, and we could even expand on that. Probably. We are approaching an hour, about 10 minutes left. We're going to try to cap it at an hour. So this is an open space. So anyone in the crowd, please feel free to jump up, ask questions. We've kind of derailed a little bit, but I don't think so. I think that's the point of a Twitter space, is to kind of just have free flowing conversation. It's really just focused around, building in Web3, right? Like, what does that mean? What do we need to build? How do we build it? Like, how do you get started? How do you come up with ideas? How do you find developers? How do you, get funding? How do you start a project from the ground up? Different things like that. So, if anybody has any questions, feel free to either hop up here or drop them in the comments below the thread. Definitely get them answered. Yeah, I'd love to hear people's thoughts and, some more questions for myself, Nick, Ned, Work Monk down there. Used to work at Smart Things at Amazon. Great developer. Yeah, Compound. Toss it over to you.
Okay, so let's get back on topic. I kind of derailed it onto Twitch, but honestly, it's nice to kind of talk about things in general, right? The space in general. But to get back on topic, I kind of want to know, Ned and Nick, so like, what originally interested you Web3? Like, what brought you here? And then what was it, like, obviously the problem that you saw that was enough to leave Twitch, like a good paying job at Twitch, to come to Web3 and find a solution to a problem. Like, what, if you could like walk us through that whole process, because I think there are a lot of people that maybe in here that are looking to build in Web3 and maybe looking for a problem that needs to be solved. So maybe to hear your guys's journey would be cool.
That's a good question. I can answer for me. I think that working at Twitch was a fantastic opportunity. And at least for me, it was the largest company I'd ever been at by like 2 orders of magnitude. So it was a huge difference for me. I got to build a lot of cool stuff at scale, got to learn a lot of cool things. But one of the fun things that you learn when you're at a larger company is that there's different problems that you're solving than just kind of like pushing the envelope, like the bleeding edge stuff. We're talking about subscribing and tipping using cryptocurrency, and that it's 2023 now, and we haven't really seen Twitch really launch anything there yet. I'm not saying that they won't. I don't know what their plans are, but they're not trying to be on the bleeding edge because really they don't have to be, right? They found really strong product market fit, and they're really working on their current, like where they are, rather than trying to find that next huge explosion. And for me, like that's really what I wanted to do. Like we saw these ripe opportunities to kind of go after bleeding edge ideas where like we can actually help drive and build the future. And at least for me, like that got me really excited to kind of go and do that. And effectively, it's been a wild ride. Like as you're building the future, you never know what's going to happen. And so like you can have like really great days, you can have really tough days, but at the end of the day, like you are kind of building your own path. And for me, I think that's super exciting.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Ned. Thank you. I love hearing people's journeys into Web3, right? And you guys have a unique one coming from Twitch and finding a problem here and getting together and like solving that problem. So thank you.
Yeah, Nick, I don't know if you want to speak on that as well.
Yeah, I could chime in a little bit. Yeah, Twitch was a amazing opportunity. I loved working there. It was a lot of fun. Met some great folks. I mean, that's where I met Ned, and still stay in touch with a lot of those folks. But yeah, I mean, Web3 has always been something very interesting and intriguing. There's certain use cases that it powers that other technologies do not currently power, and I think like my family is originally from South America, and just you're starting to see a lot more use cases where it's like, if you don't have a government that you fully trust in, or like the dollar that you fully trust in, then Web3 can be an outlet that gets powered by that. And I think those use cases were very, very compelling. And then investigating like more into the space, seeing that some of the tooling was like lacking. And so you have this very exciting future that the base building blocks aren't there yet, was technically very exciting, and something that like I was happy to jump into. And then also seeing that future that Ned's mentioning is something that's also compelling. So I think those two things were kind of the motivating factor to kind of leap and go into the space.
Appreciate you, Nick. I agree, man. I think that there are a lot of gaps in Web3 and problems that are still yet to be filled, or like gaps to be filled and problems to be solved. And they're out there. And I just like really appreciate you give me an answer on how you guys did it. Thanks.
Of course. And it's interesting when you look at like the analogs to Web 2, right? It's like now you got like AWS. If you want to launch a website, like you do a couple clicks of a button, you have like these no code solutions like Webflow. That like did not exist, obviously, back in the day, right? Like you had to like run your own servers, you had to build your own hardware, then you had to like write your code, deploy your code. All these things were crazy, right? And so then you start to like go a little bit later, and now you had to build like your own auth systems. And then there's a company called like Okta that blew up, I think in the early like 2010s, because they started to give you with a couple lines of code, hey, log in with email and manage all that. And then when you look at the the analog to Web3, it's like, yeah, you don't really have like those login solutions. Some of the infrastructure is starting to be built, but you kind of see that in any new industry where there'll be new evolutions, and then new infrastructure gets built for the next evolution, right? And so as we start to see that groundwork laid out, where it's like, hey, we have this blockchain that's maybe a little bit slower, a little bit more costly, we're able to innovate to this level. And with the next iterations of, better blockchains, better security, better ease of use, we're now going to have the next evolution. And that's how we're going to continue to go. And I think that's how you see like these bull and bear markets, right? It's like the bull is because they're taking advantage of the new infra, and then the bear is when the new infra is being built. And so, while we're in this bear, it feels this is a very good time to be building kind of those infrastructure level pieces to then really have that higher peak in that next bull.
Man, I think that's the perfect segue to toss the mic to Alts real quick. Before I do, I don't think Alts has ever joined my space when there's more than 10 minutes left. And then he extends for much longer, which I love. That's not a diss to Alts at all. I love having him in my space. I love you, Alts. But yeah, man, how you doing today? I haven't talked to you in a little while.
I'm doing good, man. Thanks. Yeah, I've been busy today. I'm just grinding and working deep on an edit, and I just caught the second half of this, or on the Luxo gaming side of things. Like there was there were some teams working on stuff like in the last build up hackathon. One named Phaser, they made a plugin for the HTML gaming framework, which enables you to basically log in with your universal profile and use your profiles within game. So another one called Unity Luxo Profile, which allowed you to embed a Web3 wallet in Unity games and create a Luxo profile, like a universal profile in game. But the really interesting one that I thought was the most interesting so far that I've seen was from the first hackathon. There was like Hack Your Profile, the one I think in 2021. But there was one named Nomad, which was using LSP8, and it was. I'll just read you the little bio they have on here. The Nomad protocol is built for transferring assets across games and immersive social experiences. Nomad provides the missing incentive for game developers to cooperate and render NFTs, which are shared across games, worlds, and governance frameworks. The smart contracts provide a lightweight framework with plug-and-play governance and incentivization through protocol fees. And I want to say, like the demo they used, it was like they were taking. It was kind of like a pretty basic game, but kind of like a Zelda type world. And they had a sword, and they were taking like you could take the sword into another game, play with it there, and you could earn like power ups and reputation and stuff on chain, like across multiple games and stuff like that. So I mean, it's definitely scratching the surface on that type of stuff. But I feel like gaming could be such a huge part of that next big wave. So it'll be really interesting to see how it evolves.
Man, that's so cool. And I totally agree. I think Web3 gaming is kind of like the next explosion that we'll see. I mean, it was DeFi, then it was NFTs, and then DAOs a little bit, but I don't think DAOs have still gotten their shine yet. I think it'll come. But Web3 gaming is right on the cusp of being something that's, really, really amazing. Like you said, like being able to take your assets across multiple different platforms, not even use them, but like level them up, and do different quests. It could open up so many doors for interoperability between multiple games, probably from the same studio, but maybe even cross collaborations amongst multiple studios, which would really just change the game of how we game today, right? For lack of better words. But yeah, man, that's really, really cool.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated and interested myself, like also about like the interoperability development, like you said, between gaming and between platforms, and how they're gonna like our clones, for instance, like the day that we can actually have those like safely integrate into a game that I can just rock in, like Fortnite, for example, someday, like would just be so insane and just change the game. But like, yeah, I don't think anyone quite has the answers yet of how that's going to evolve. It's going to be quite tricky, I think, to navigate. But whether platforms choose to go decentralized or keep kind of closed walled gardens, I guess we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I always see, you with your clone in different games and in VR and Valheim and stuff, which is one of my all-time favorites.
We
Yeah, just
still need to play together sometime.
I know for sure. That's the game that I have the most hours by like 3 or 4, magnitudes. That's a great game. Web3 gaming will be insane. Definitely take over the future. It'll be interesting to see, how like Web2 platforms kind of, if they choose to kind of get ahead of the game, like maybe Twitch, with like we were saying with, some crypto integrations for tipping and things like that, like kind of see how they explore the space in the next year or so. But I know just from doing like research on different projects in the space all the time that like there's a ton of Web3 gaming like platforms that are being built, that are getting funding. So hopefully, obviously there's always a percentage that don't make it and things like that. But I think we're going to see a big boom within the next year or so. But all right. A little bit over an hour. We're going to try to cap it at an hour. If anyone has any final questions, remarks, feel free to hop up and ask away. If not, put them in the comments below the thread. I think this was a very successful space. I want to thank everyone that hopped up today and spoke. Shout out to the Slashshot co-founders Nick and Ned for giving their opinions and just kind of getting to know them a little bit. I think that was very valuable to the community. I'd love to host this space, once a week. We'll continue to do the same time for next week, subject to change in the future, just to, get more people in, get more people up here talking and whatnot. But yeah, let's open it up, one last time for anybody to ask some final questions. And, if not today, then hopefully next week. Yes, we got Cook.
What up, Turtle? Awesome space. I caught about the last half too. Work had me doing Web 2 things today, so I couldn't spend all my hours on Twitter. But we'll make up for that in the second half of the day. So, yeah, great space. Just wanted to say thanks to Ned and Nick and you for hosting. I enjoyed the conversation. Looking forward to the next one. And I hope you guys are able to keep doing these because it's fun just to hear the different takes from different areas outside of the traditional Web3 area. And like you're all very knowledgeable on, how big business and big tech actually does things. And then you're also building /auths and, with the founders here. I mean, it's just a cool, awesome panel, if you will. And I think it'll be really great to, continue to keep the conversations going so that everyone can really get more educated on what it actually means to authenticate an asset and how we can actually integrate /auth into different efforts that really this entire community and ecosystem is building, because it's a very powerful tool and I'd love to use it, someday. Win Luxo integration, I had to say that one too.
Yeah, it's nice to be on a space with less engagement farmers and more builders. It's a nice change of pace for once.
Skittles,
Oh, yeah.
I'm really here to engagement farm, so I don't really know what else to say, man.
It's okay.
I just want to say thank you guys for hopping in. Cook, thank you for the kind words, and I appreciate the push to Luxo. I've been pushing it too, so when we hear it from the community, it always helps, right? I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for putting this together. Thank you guys all for joining and for the kind words. It was awesome just chatting and shooting the shit about different things. And so if you guys ever have any questions, feel free to DM us, or we can wait until the next space. But this has been awesome. So I really enjoyed it. So thank you all.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you, everybody. It's fantastic.
All right. On that note, I'll close it down. Thank you guys. This has been Building Web3 Together with some of the /auth crew here. Yeah, we'll be back next week. Try to make this a weekly space. Yeah, thank you guys for joining in, conversating, listening.